As a follow-up to our previous Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 presentation, where we examined the melee fighting system in detail, we are now going to discuss the rest of it, namely the unarmed, stealth, and ranged forms of combat. There's a lot to talk about within this topic, and as you'll see, the more we discover about them, related questions will also pile up. The links to every video shown here are available in the description. Okay, let's begin. By the looks of it, unarmed fighting seems to have undergone some intriguing changes for KCD2, the most apparent of which is that hooks are now really fast in comparison to the first game. Launching them are so quick in fact that I suspect it's meant to replace jabs, and heavy strikes might now be assigned to back fists as demonstrated by one of the dicers. At a glance, removing this kind of light attack might sound questionable. But if we look back to KCD1, straight punches are overpowered, to a point where we could easily win any fist fight through spamming, and the only way developers could bring it down a notch is by slowing them down. However, defending against punches is done through a simple action of holding the block button, so it doesn't matter where an attack would come from. Therefore, if a similar mechanic is applied in the sequel, it would make jabs redundant to hooks. In the official gameplay showcase, no one threw a straight punch, but then again we only saw a brief look at the fisticuffs, so it's hard to say for certain if this change was implemented. Although there were a couple of other observations that I think have a very high chance of being carried out, because they share some similarities to the melee combat system. In the same way that sword thrust attacks are now most likely mapped to the combat star's 6 o'clock position, kicks during unarmed scuffles have also been assigned onto that same direction, instead of having a dedicated button. Furthermore, it seems like the rules for attacking or defending from a clinch are being utilized in grappling as well, where the winner of that contest will get a chance landing some hits, while the other character is given an opportunity to repel it. During Henry's initial face-off with Dicer Pepic, the player won this contest, although his first attack was blocked. In their second attempt, Henry won again, but this time he managed to land 3 hits before breaking off. At first I thought these offensive moves were manually controlled, since the reticle was pointed in the same direction the palm strikes were launched, but the low kick was not. And if the rules for melee fighting applied to unarmed as well, then it would make more sense if they're parts of a combination instead. Moreover, 2 of these 3 hits were later shown again during the quick cuts, which adds to our assumption that they're indeed portions of a combo. It's also worth noting that the shield icons are still present when an opponent is about to attack. I'm just not sure if Henry would still do a backstep when we press block at the right time, or if it's been replaced with something else. But I think the most important question, which affects unarmed fighting in general, has something to do with the inconsistent stamina consumption and regeneration that's noticeable between the gameplay footages. In the preview videos, stamina behavior is very similar to what we know from the first game, but in the official showcase, its recovery is instantaneous every time their player got a chance to recuperate, such as when they initiated a grapple. And the 3 hits landed from that position had no stamina cost as well. Someone suggested that maybe Henry was under the influence of a potion, but there was no icon displayed that points to such a possibility. So I'm still not sure what's going on here, and obviously this would not be an ideal setup in the finished game, because it would make grappling overpowered. There are, however, some elements that can only be regulated up to a certain extent, because their real-world counterpart is simply dominant by default, such as the case with the newly available ranged weapons, which we'll check out next. Without a doubt, early firearms are going to be the most destructive type of weapon we'll get to equip in KCD2. Based on what was shared in the GameSpot preview, we know its energy can be focused onto singular targets using lead balls, or it could possibly take down an entire group using something called a scatter shot. And in one of the trailers, we can even see these projectiles in action. But the question is, how powerful are they exactly? The only bits of information shown were those of their ranks and power rating, which are inadequate if we plan to do some number crunching. For example, we can see here that the scattershot's damage is 200, while the lead ball is at 250. Upon initial inspection, we might think that the latter is only 25% more powerful than the former, but when the players switched from scattershot to lead ball, Henry's attack power climbed from 512 to 811, which is a 58% increase rounded down. So there are some pieces of the equation missing, and my best guess is that these two types of rounds have different power modifiers, similar to what arrows have in the first game. Therefore, if we differentiate this hook gun with the hunting crossbow right below it, a proper assessment would be that this firearm is potentially 3 times more powerful than the other, because their damage capability depends on the type of projectile we feed them. This is why an exact value does not show up on the character status panel, unless both the ranged weapon and its ammo are equipped. Crossbows don't seem that far behind, however, or at least that was my initial impression when I saw the siege scenario. But as I watched this segment multiple times, I noticed a couple of things that seemed a bit off. From what we've seen so far, there are at least 3 types of crossbows that will be available in the game. The most powerful of them are heavy siege crossbows that require a windlass to operate. And this also makes them the slowest to reload, taking about 20 seconds or more in real life. A step down from that in terms of draw weight are those which utilize a goat's foot lever, but in exchange they're faster to rearm, observed at around 15 seconds. Meanwhile, the one used in the gameplay demos is called Decorated Hunting Crossbow, which Henry can span manually by bracing its stock on his midsection, and the entire reloading process takes approximately 5.5 seconds. It's a very light variant, so I was really surprised when the player was able to fell enemies in one hit, regardless of their distance and the armor they were wearing, although I may have an idea as to what's going on here. Since this crossbow's demonstration was shown within a siege scenario, I suspect the enemies here were all scripted to perish if they got hit anywhere. This is the only possible explanation as to why this soldier got eliminated, even though the bolt struck his steel helmet. If Henry was wielding a siege crossbow, this is very likely to happen, but from a hand-spanned one at this distance, it would have been dented at best. This should also clear up why the player's first shot against this other soldier was lethal, even though he clearly got hit on his right shoulder. Therefore, my assumption is that Light's crossbows are not going to be this destructive in the release version of KCD2. Because if they were, then there would hardly be any reason to use the heavier ones anymore that take longer to reload, and the only thing that would keep them in check is a continuous stamina drain while aiming down. Judging from what we're shown so far, this decorated hunting crossbow is already a formidable weapon even without a power advantage. From the examples of its usage, we can see that bolts fly in a straight, predictable manner, as expected, and the handshake seems to be confined in a small area, which means landing mortal shots are probably not going to be too difficult. But I think the most interesting characteristic of this crossbow type is that they're relatively quiet to shoot, and it makes them a perfect weapon for stealthy characters, which by itself is already shaping up to be a highly effective build. As of this recording, we only have a couple of discernible improvements to the stealth mechanics, but their impact is quite huge. First off, there's now a simple detection system through the rabbit's icon on top of the screen. When a hostile character notices Henry from far away, it shows up with its ears pointed down, and they will rotate upwards as our character gets closer to being fully detected. There's also an icon for when a hostile is searching for him, which directly ties to his new ability of being able to lure enemies by throwing a pebble or through whistling. If we look back at other games which have a similar feature, we'll realize that this is a very powerful move, to a point where indirect methods of dispatching enemies would be too easy if left unchecked. The only thing I saw, which presumably is meant to keep things under control, was a prompt from the combat star that needs to be performed when doing stealth eliminations. One change I noticed with regards to this is we now have to equip a dagger instead of just having them in our inventory. What Henry has in the demos seems to be a Quilon dagger, but I've also seen other types, such as a Bollock knife equipped by Father Godwin, and a Rondel dagger attached to Adder's leather pouch. So there's a good chance that our character will also be able to buy and equip those too, if desired. From everything we've covered so far, the one recurring matter is with regards to balance, and we simply cannot get concrete answers for them until the game is released. But to be fair, Warhorse Studios seems to have done a great job addressing a similar concern surrounding master strikes and fighting groups of enemies. So maybe these other systems have also been placed under close scrutiny as well. Let's hope for the best.